Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with What Are You Listening to Lately? WAYLTL. What are you listening to? Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. And I'd be interested to know what you're listening to lately. I have been listening to this. Arthur Bliss, his two very big variation pieces together on one wonderful Naxos disc featuring the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra under David Lloyd-Jones. The works are the Meditations on a Theme by John Blow, which is rather well known. I mean, at least, comparatively speaking, to the extent anything by Bliss is well known. And the Metamorphic Variations, which is one of his last works, and a wonderful, powerful piece. Bliss lived from 1891 to 1975. He really had a very long and productive life. I think he's one of those guys who became master of the Queen's music. I think he was master of the Queen's music after Bach's. That's usually the kiss of death for your compositional life, because you wind up writing ceremonial music and doing things that somehow make everybody want to ignore you because you're just not like avant-garde and progressive enough. You seem to be, sort of retrogressive, traditionalist, whatever. And Arthur Bliss was, well, he was that in a sense. His most famous piece is probably a color symphony, the color being the colors as in the colors of heraldry and chivalry and chivalric, signage and whatnot. So that sort of goes back to the Middle Ages. But I mean, as a person, he was relatively normal. I mean, as far as I know, he wasn't trying to live in another era or another age. His music, I don't think, reflects that. These pieces are powerful and beautiful. And he was really a master at variation writing, which is what these two things are. That's the nice thing about it. And the other things he did very well were ballets. His two ballets, Miracle and the Gorbals and Adam Zero, the suites at least are also fairly well known. I mean, he wrote good, colorful music. The problem that Bliss faced, and I really think this is true, is that actually England, after the turn of the 20th century, simply suffered from a surfeit. I love that. Suffered from a surfeit of good composers. And, it's like anything else. I mean, there's value and scarcity. You have to pick and you have to choose. And we can, if we look back now in the 20th century, we can begin to see how this sorting process happened. Because for a while there was like just a whole agglomeration of them. There was the older generation, Vaughan Williams and Holst and Frank Bridge and people like that. Then you had the new generation, Britten and Tippett and Walton and Bliss and all these people who lived until like the 70s and 80s, basically. And they were born at the beginning of the 20th century. And England had to choose. And the winner was Benjamin Britten. I mean, because he wrote operas, first of all. I mean, big splashy operas. And he had a very personal style, which was, very, very effective and expressive. It was contemporary, but it was also traditional enough that normal people could enjoy it. And he was the one that England really got behind. For a while, Walton was in the running. He was writing concerti for Heifetz and Piatigorsky, and, Belshazzar's Feast was a huge smash hit and all that stuff. But then he sort of wimped out or whimpered out. He got less and less productive as things got, as he got older and less interested in England. I mean, he moved to Ischia and in Italy and said to hell with that place. And was not really very fond of England at the end of his life. So he was repaid for that by basically being ignored. At this point, he's as good as might as well not have existed, which really just shocks me, actually. And Bliss was another one who had plenty of promise and was played and performed for quite a bit, in the immediate pre- and post-war eras. And then he, too, just sort of vanished. And, in the list of composers that we could talk about, we've talked about Rubra, and we've talked about Alwyn, and we've talked about, Arnold, Malcolm Arnold. And they were really good composers, well-trained individuals. They all had their personal voice and sense of form and color. And really, they were a talented bunch, a hugely talented bunch. And Bliss is one of the losers. I mean, losers historically speaking, not as a human being or as a composer. He was a very good composer. And anyway, to get back to the music, the Meditations on a Theme by John Blow is a memorial tribute to those lost in World War I, including Bliss's own brother. And the Metamorphic Variations is based on the triptych Tantris, painted by Bliss's longtime friend, the late George Danat. I don't know what that looks like. I guess this is some of it on the front here, maybe, I'm assuming. I could be wrong. Let me see what the cover. Study for Parsifal, part of Tantris by George Danat. Yeah, okay. So that's a part of it. Isn't that helpful? It sounds just like that. See that? There you go. Now you know what it sounds like. No, but seriously, it is a wonderful piece. Let me just give you the titles of the different variations. It's Elements, Ballet, Assertion, Speculation, Interjections, Scherzo 1, Contemplation, Polonaise, Funeral Processions, Cool Interlude, Scherzo 2, Duet, Dedicated to GD and AD, and then finally Affirmation. I mean, it gives you just a sense of how varied the thing is. And the titles actually do suggest something of the character of the music, unlike so much contemporary music where things are called something like, Schizoid 7 or what did we just see? Calligraphy or Abracadabra. I don't know. The music can't possibly do anything like what the titles are. So that's really cool. Now, the Meditations on the Theme of John Blow are all feature biblical quotations for each meditation, and some of them of course are tranquil, and some of them are rather feisty. But if you don't know the works, you really should give them a listen because they are beautiful. And this is a lovely recording with the Bournemouth Symphony under David Lloyd-Jones, very well recorded by Naxos. It's a piece that's really worth hearing, and both of them really worth hearing and worth getting to know, because Bliss was a really solid composer, and you may not be a Blissnik, when you're done, but you'll be happy that you've acquired some additional really fine music. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me, and tell me what you're listening to lately. Take care.